Hi, this is Lance Edwards.
And this is Randy Luebke.
And this is Financial Independence, A Better Perspective. Welcome to this episode. And today's topic, Randy, is one that I know, I'm confident a lot of our listeners and viewers, if you're watching this video, is going to find very relevant. And is typically, let me give you the topic. It's alternative retirement plans for self-employed small business owners who are less than 10 years from retirement. And I'm going to, Randy, I'm going to start the conversation here, or I'm going to start to pepper you with some questions. And let's create a scenario. And this is what you deal with every day. So let's say we've got self-employed small business owner that has his own little small business. Maybe it's him and a couple of people to help him out. And he's in his 50s and he's within 10 years of retiring. And the conversation between him and his wife around the kitchen table in the evenings is, you know, hey, I don't think we have enough in our self-directed IRA. I don't think we have enough in our 401k. How many years do you think you can keep doing this? And what is our plan? What is our retirement plan? Because we really can't sell. There's not a business here to sell. But what is the plan for us to retire? So I think that is a lot of Americans who have enjoy a very great income because of this, you know, self-employed small business, but there's not an asset there. So if I paint that scenario, is that enough for you to do your magic and start talking about ways to help them out, Randy?
100%, Lance. In fact, I actually wrote a book on this, right? Called The Entrepreneur's Guide to Financial Independence. And so here's the problem with all entrepreneurs, right? We work for the worst boss in the world ourselves, right? and we have, right? We get to work as many hours as we want and as many days as we want. And we do, right? And frankly, this is what the essence of the book was. The worst thing is we always want to invest 100% of our money back in our own business, right? Because after all, we know our business, it's our business and we can control it and we love control. That's why we're entrepreneurs, right? But the reality is that none of us can continue to do this forever, right? Whether it's by choice or circumstance, none of us can do it forever. So what I want to talk about with this is what I call safety nets and off ramps, right? So safety nets and off ramps, okay? So let's do safety nets first, right? So safety nets are like the name implies, these are the things that protect you when something goes wrong, when you fall off the tightrope, right? The safety net. And this is appropriate at any age. Your circumstances like 10 years prior to retirement, whatever, but this is for, young entrepreneur, even young W-2 employee, doesn't matter. You need to have certain safety nets in place. So like, what are those? Well, most people don't think about it, but especially when you're younger, what's your number one biggest asset? Your ability to earn an income, right? You're going to earn an income. And what if you can't, right? What if you become disabled or you have some kind of, weird health thing happens to you and you just who knows what life's going to throw at you, right? So you need a way to ensure your income to die, but I'm saying if you got disabled, permanently disabled, you need a way to ensure that you have still income to pay for the things you need for your family or pay for your mortgages or whatever it is your obligations are. And so disability insurance is something most people don't think about, right? And it's not that expensive and everybody should have it. It's a no-brainer, right? If you are a W-2 employee, and you work for a big corporation, you can get group disability insurance for pennies. It's literally, you work for big corporations before, you know this, right?
Yep.
These group policy plans are dirt cheap and everybody should get them, right?
I still have mine from my corporate days 15, 20 years ago. I still have it.
There you go.
Basically pennies on it.
Pennies for it, right? And if you're an entrepreneur, you're not going to get the great deal per se, but you can still get affordable disability insurance which, by the way, you don't need to insure your entire income. You don't need to buy $10,000 of income a month on your disability insurance, but you need to buy enough so that your family's not going to worry as you're going through whatever it is you're going through, that they'll have some money to carry on. So that's a big safety net. Disability insurance, an easy thing to do, and everybody should do it. Okay. Number two, and maybe this should have been number one, is to have significant liquid cash reserves, right? This is a little bit of Dave Ramsey in me, but I take it to a higher degree. Dave wants a few months of cash reserves. I want a year, maybe 2 years of cash reserves, right? For why? Two reasons. If things go wrong, I want cash to take and to see me through the storm, not credit cards, right? Credit cards are, that death spiral, right? Cash gives you a lot of peace of mind. Cash gives you the ability to make it through whatever it is, especially if you have significant liquid cash reserves. And of course, the other side, we talk about this in many podcasts, having liquid cash gives you the opportunity to take advantage of those investments when they come along. So that's a big safety net, having the liquid cash reserves. Another safety net is not having any debt, right? And I'm not talking about the good debt that the type that you use to buy real estate with. I'm talking about, car loans, credit card debt, student loans, that stuff that you use to buy stuff, right? That's you've consumed or it's gone, but you still have the debt for years to follow. You need to get that debt gone, so you have the cash flow, not servicing debt, but servicing your investments and your savings, right? So you get rid of the debt, you have cash reserves, and you have disability insurance. Those are my three safety nets that you want to have in place. Okay. Now,
All right.
Now the other side, the off ramps, right? So, you have a business that's all about you. I mean, I don't want to blow your ego up, my friend, but Lance Edwards is Lance Edwards, and without Lance Edwards Company wouldn't be what Lance Edwards Company is. You agree?
Not the training company, the seminar company. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Lance
not the
Edwards
investments.
doing his thing.
Yeah, not the investments part of it. That's part of the off ramp. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, and same thing with the Randy Luebke and Lifetime Paradigm. There's I've got a company, but the value of the company is what I'm putting into it today, right? And so we have to have off ramps, right, for ourselves. Now, these off ramps, by the way, can be voluntary or involuntary off ramps, right? Get back to the health thing again, right? If you have a stroke, if something happens to your health and you just don't have the energy to work, or whatever it is, the economy, whatever it is, you need to be able to have off ramps to get off on, right? And then the voluntary one would be selling your business, perhaps, right, or exiting out of your assets. And the point is, and obviously we could go on for hours about this because every business is going to have its own set of off ramps. The point is, you have to figure out what they're going to be before the tragedy happens, or before the need for exiting the freeway comes up, right? And just another point, and I'll let you pontificate on this a bit, but it's especially true if you have partners, right? And this goes, if you and I were in a business together, we would need to have a partnership agreement, right? Because if something happens to you, if you become disabled, if you become divorced, if you die, right? If something happens to you or me, we want to have it settled ahead of time exactly how we're going to buy each other out of the business, right? When we can't do it because we're under this other circumstance right now. So for partners, you got to have a buy-sell agreement. Got to have it, right? That's critically important. That's your off ramp for your partnership. Okay. Now, your thoughts on those comments? That was a mouthful.
Yeah, that was very good. I'm going to talk on the off ramps. I think, first of all, the safety nets. Absolutely. Everybody needs that. Mm-hmm. I think on the off ramps, which I love these labels you put on them. I don't know. You may be able to comment on this. For the typical self-employed small business owner who's, built up their little business, maybe 20 years, nice income, nice lifestyle. It's them and maybe two other people. At what point do they start thinking about, should I try to sell this? Or at what point maybe do they discover it's not a sellable asset because it's all dependent upon them? Is that late in the game when they tend to discover that, or is that a choice they've made early on? It's just not important to them when they're younger. Do you have a comment on that, Randy?
Yeah. I think what happens is, for most people, when they start their business, especially, they don't realize all they did was create themselves a job, right? Like I said, it's a job, and you work for the worst employer in the world, yourself. But they don't realize that, right? And until they come to that realization, they don't understand that they need to do something after that job's over, or when they get fired, or whatever it is they're going to do to themselves, right? And that's again why you got to get involved with these other investments, right? Why we encourage people to buy real estate. That's a great investment because it's going to continue on long after you do. You mentioned cash value life insurance, right? Cash value life insurance, or permanent life insurance will, is going to be there when you're not, right? And you just got to do something. This is, again, going back to my book. This is the problem with business owners. We want to stick every penny we make back into our business, and you can't do that.
Well, this gets to my point. I'm glad you're saying this, is because I think, for the self-employed small business owner, first of all, when you get started, you're just trying to get cash flow. It's all about cash flow. You're trying to get this thing off the ground. You want cash flow and grow it. And you get addicted to it, by the way, because it's nice. You can get nice stuff with it, and your spouse likes it, and the kids like it. And that becomes the focus. That addiction, I call it the addiction to that cash flow. And you're right. But you're working for a lunatic, right? You're got this crazy, you got this nut job of a boss who's always on your back, and you're putting everything back into it, and you're not thinking towards, well, maybe I need to have a better place for this cash, because really, I do want to exit someday, and unless I'm going to really make this a real business and really bring on all the staff and really bring on all the employees, which a lot of people don't even want to do, by the way. They don't want to hassle with the employees.
Right.
So then they're locked, and then I think they wake up. I think it's about the time. Here's my theory. I think it's about the time that they first get their welcome letter from AARP. Welcome. You are qualified now to join AARP. There's a little bit of denial that goes on for a while, but then I think maybe the other partner, the other spouse starts saying about, hey, at some point you're going to reach a point where you can't do this anymore. What is our plan? And I think that's when it starts to kind of set in. I really don't have a sellable asset, and so that's, I think, to hear you say it, I think it's later on in the stage that people start realizing this. I mean, I can speak for myself. I mean, as I was doing this,
me too. Yeah,
I was very fortunate. I was very, I on my training company. My training company was built. It started off with me and a flip chart. That was it. I was speaking to groups with a flip chart, talking about apartments.
Yeah. And
we grew it, and we've got staff, we got employees, but still, at the end of the day, a lot of it depends upon this guy named Lance Edwards. I'm the spokesperson and all these things, but I was very fortunate because I had a mentor years ago that said, "Hey, Lance, wait a minute, hold on. Just realize that, you got a personality-based business. It's based upon your personality. It's based upon you. You need to be taking some of that cash flow and parking into your teaching apartments, parking into those apartments you're talking about." And that's a sellable asset. That's an asset that will yield passive income. It creates equity. If something, happens to me, either it goes to my family to continue running it, or if they don't want to run it, they can sell it because there's all the equity tied up in it. And I think I was very fortunate in that regard. But I think if I had not gotten that advice at that point years ago, I wouldn't have that. I'd be here with everybody else trying to figure out.
Suffering through the addiction.
Exactly. So
I just made a note while you were talking. You just gave me an idea for my book after my next book. I'm gonna write a book called Writing Your Own Succession Plan: The Entrepreneur's Guide to Retirement. That's what you're talking about. How to do a succession plan, the Entrepreneur's Guide to Retirement, right? And that's what we got to do. That's what we got to do.
I think it's a big part of it, and not big part. I think it's core to these self-employed entrepreneurs. Which most, I think, I'm sure the vast majority of small businesses out there are small operations. It's basically self-employment. I mean, it's basically self-employment with some help.
Yep.
So this is a big problem. This is a big problem. And frankly, the people that come to me, who come avail them my services, where I'm Well, I do. There's one of two reasons they come to me. They want to either learn how to go buy apartments, because that's going to be their off ramp. That's their catch up plan, because you can catch up very quickly by buying apartments. It doesn't have to be your cash. You could certainly take your cash flow out of your business and put it in it, but you can supplement it with other people's money, because you can raise money to do these projects. And that is a very quick catch up plan, is actively basically, and what I call it, Randy, is taking the entrepreneurial skills you developed over the last 10, 15, 20 years in your own business and applying it to small apartment businesses, because they are simply, they're just businesses in their own right. And that's your catch-up plan. That's one way you can do it. Or the other way you can do it is take your cash flow and invest it in projects like mine and get a passive return. So now you can get a above market return, 12 to 18%, investing in funds passively. You go the active route, you're talking about 30 to 40+% annual ROI on your cash. And if you're using somebody else's cash, it's infinite ROI. That's why it's the catch-up plan. So I think that is, I'm very bullish about this. For one reason, this is what I do, this is what I teach, but I don't know of too many other options. What other options would that self-employed small business owner have that's 55 years old and needs to kind of catch up really fast? What other options are available to them?
There really isn't. I mean, if you put $1 million in some kind of safe passive investment, and you were fortunate enough to get 5% a year, that's 50 grand a year. And somebody that has $1 million is used to having a lot more than $50,000 a year of income, right? Because that's how they got to the $1 million in the first place. And so, I tell people this all the time, say, what's the best investment you can make in yourself? And I go, number one best investment is invest in yourself. And I don't mean that facetiously, but I mean, if you're a W-2 employee, become better and better and better at your job so that you can earn higher, more income and higher up in the company, right? Just invest in yourself. If you have the ability to be an entrepreneur, be one, because that's where you're really going to get rewarded, right? That's kind of like the passive and the direct thing. So as a direct owner of my own business, I'm going to get much more return than I would ever, working for some other company. But so that's my number one investment. My number two is real estate. Number two is real estate, because it's leverageable. It's an asset you can pass on. You can do it as passively or actively as you want to in it. There's tax benefits that are, unmatched, right? I mean, the real estate is just that number two investment. And all this other stuff we do with stocks and cash value, life insurance, whatever, it's really just a place to put our money until we can find something better to do with it, like a real estate deal, right? And that's what it's all about.
And I've been thinking about this, and I'm gonna get your opinion on this. I think, again, in the apartment space, which is I spend all my time, and you're thinking about this all the time. But
okay,
I think there's three roles you can participate in. For example, if you want to get involved with apartments, there's three roles. It really comes a function of how much time you want to commit to it. So if you want to commit 1 to 2 hours per year into apartments, you can become a passive investor. You'll earn 12 to 18%. That's, that 1 to 2 hours per year is depositing your checks and reading a statement every once in a while. That's passive. At the other end, if you want to commit 1 to 2 hours per day, you can become what I call an active entrepreneur. You can go out, source these, buy these, raise the money to put into them, and you'll make 30 to 40+% ROI on your own cash, infinite ROI on other people's cash.
Yep.
You're active, but it's still part-time. And then in between the passive investor and the active entrepreneur is a role I call the passive entrepreneur. You're going to spend 1 to 2 hours per month.
Mm-hmm.
You still own an apartment building, but you pretty much just leave it to your management company to go do whatever they're going to do. You don't give them much guidance. You get you get a monthly P&L, and maybe you approve something every once in a while, and you spend 1 to 2 hours a month. And that's like a 15, 20, 25% ROI in doing that. But those are the three roles
that make sense
that are available to anyone. And I think you've kind of helped say here for me. I think it's the off-ramp that's the off-ramp of off-ramps for someone who's in the situation. They don't have the luxury of time anymore. They've got to catch up. They've got to catch up on that retirement plan.
Yep. So because you can get great returns, leverage returns that are still pretty safe returns. You know, the biggest downside of real estate, there's two downsides of real estate. It's a hassle to deal with, which is what you're saying. If you could offload that work to somebody else, and it's illiquid, right? So if you've done the other things we talked about, getting your liquidity built up, your cash reserves, getting your debt gone, all that other stuff, then the illiquid part doesn't really matter. And then it's just a matter of what level of involvement you want to have with it in exchange for what rate of return you want to receive for it. And you described it perfectly, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's literally a ROI versus time commitment trade-off. It's literally comes down to that.
Yep.
And I think, but if without doing that, like you said, I don't know what your options are other than working as long as you can while hopefully your health holds out. And while frankly, your spouse is worrying about, are you the husband going to go before them? And there have images of being Walmart greeters somewhere.
Yeah, that's fearful. That's a legitimate and fearful concern for a lot of spouses, right? So, all right. Well, let me kind of wrap this up. This is a good talk, Lance. Thank you. So basically, for entrepreneurs, we're talking about having safety nets and off ramps. And the safety nets were one, having significant liquid cash reserves, putting disability insurance in place today, right? Whether you're a W-2 employer, entrepreneur, and getting rid of that debt, that consumer debt that's getting in the way of your investments. And then the off ramps, again, if you have a partnership, you have to get a buy-sell agreement, so you have a way to know how things will be liquidated between you and your partner. And you have got to absolutely positively invest outside your business in other investments like real estate, right? To take a portion of that earnings and get rid of set that candy or whatever that addiction is aside, that money addiction, and put that offer in another business. And real estate's a great opportunity for you to do that.
And I'm gonna make one more comment. We can wind down here on partnerships. That buy-sell agreement. I learned this the hard way. If you're going to go into a partnership, I would spend more time on the exit language in that buy-sell agreement. I would spend more time putting together what the exit language says is going to be the divorce or the exit, how that's going to occur,
100%.
than I would on going into it. Too many people, they jump into it. Everything looks rosy. Everybody's lovey-dovey, and then stuff happens, and now you've got a nasty divorce on your hands, and there's nothing in paperwork to work its way through. Perhaps you've seen some of these through your clients.
I've seen it too often, and the only ones that win in that situation, just like a real divorce, is the attorney, and it can be avoided by having a good buy-sell up front, right? So, all right, great conversation, Lance. Anything else you want to add? I think we're good.
No, I think that's good. I think, as always, we'll put the show notes up, and you can go to our website, fibetter.com, fibetter.com. And by the way, while you're there, if you like what you're hearing, give us a 5-star rating. If you don't like it, maybe give us an email instead. Drop us an email what you don't like about it.
We'll make it better.
We'll get it better. We'll get it better. And if you're interested in any about apartments, go to my website, lanceedwards.com. You can get free books. And by the way, when this gets published, I got a brand new book coming out March 1st called Apartment Alchemy, 50 Ways Small Apartment Owners Can Boost Their Cash Flow and Wealth. Wonderful. And I hope this comes out beforehand. But anyway, 200% of proceeds are going to Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund.
Oh,
so,
that's awesome.
Randy, how do they avail themselves of your resources?
Absolutely. Well, they'll go to my website, lifetimeparadigm.com. Lifetime, LIFETIME, and Paradigm is PARADIG, G like George, M like Mary.com, lifetimeparadigm.com. Lots of good information there. Be sure to check out our financial independence toolkit. It's free. It's awesome. And if you have any questions for me, you can contact me through that website. There's a place to email me directly with any specific questions you have.
I got one last comment before we hang up here. Lifetime Paradigm. You might want to go by a URL, Lifetime Paradigm, spelled DIME, just so you're not losing any of that traffic, Randy.
Lifetime Paradigms?
Yes. All right.
I love it. Thanks, Lance.
Till next time. Okay,
right.
everybody. Bye-bye.